Time to get you hooked. It is another edition of The Stampede, a podcast on the Texas Longhorns, sponsored by Riize Energy Strips. Get your boost today with Riize Energy Strips as you're going through your afternoon. You probably don't need a boost this week, though, because it's the best week of the college football season. Hey, rate and review us. We're at The Stampede UT on social media, at The Stampede UT. Want to make sure I get that right, on social media. And, of course, you can get this podcast anywhere you get your podcast, YouTube, Apple, Spotify. Vince Young back in the house here in Austin. Love to see it. Mack Brown joining us as well. We have a great show. Going to react to the Florida loss, what happened on Saturday in Gainesville, and I think there's so much to get into there. We're going to talk about this week, the best week of the college football season. It's Texas OU week in Dallas. Can't wait to get to Dallas and have the grandmothers throwing their horns down and their fingers up at all of us as we go into the state fair. And, of course, maybe the best part of this week, Barry Switzer joins the program, the Oklahoma three-time national champion head coach. And, of course, Mack Brown coached with him in 1984 as the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma. So much to get into. Let's get into it right now. Vince Young, your first take. We talked all last week about DJ Lagway. We all thought he would respond well. He did, even playing on one leg. What impressed you most about the Florida win over Texas, and especially your guy, DJ?
Well, I can honestly say, we did say it, that DJ was going to play well, and he took offense to it. And then also he should have, being able to, go to the quarterback camp at Texas and not able to be a part of Texas and go down to Florida and didn't get the last laugh. He should have had a little swag, but in the same time, I knew that he was going to get to work. When you got people messing with you and it bothers you, the best thing is to do is go answer all your critics and everybody who's on the football field. And the way that Coach Ross and Callaway called plays, they kept it balanced. Yeah. They had a great running attack. And
Jaden Ball was great.
Yes, he ran the ball really well, especially against the Texas defense that you don't really get the chance to run the ball, a lot of them guys. But I can honestly say one of the biggest things that helped DJ had a really good game, he didn't hold the ball. Coaches call plays to get balls out of his hand. So when the pressure did get to him, he was already made a slant route or in route, just routes to stay keeping rhythm. And when you in rhythm as a quarterback, you play well. And then when you have a balance of a running attack that they ran the ball really well, that all helped him to have a good game. So just to see his stats, I think he only had 4 or 5 incomplete passes. Yeah. And that's why, because they called good plays for him to get the ball out because of that type of defense they was playing up against. And then on another note, when he did throw the big balls, they won.
They went and made plays.
That young man,
Dallas Wilson, was unbelievable.
Wow. He made our DBs look like kids.
First game as a college player. This is his freshman year, and that's his first game, and that was what he did. It was unbelievable.
He made our DBs look like little babies out there, and I know at Texas they take pride in DBU. Yeah. They don't play around with that, so they just got to get back to the drum board. But I can honestly say DJ and that coaching staff did a good job of just taking what the defense gave him.
And Texas defense obviously played better in the second half. I think they had 113 yards rushing in the first half, and then they only gave up 46 in the second half. Correct. They played better. They figured some things out after getting punched in the face, and they responded well. Coach, what was your biggest one takeaway or two takeaways from the loss to Florida?
After listening to Sark on Monday, I agreed completely. It's a game of line of scrimmages. And Florida won both lines of scrimmage. Yeah. And then it's a game of missed opportunities. There's missed deep throws. There's turnovers. There's a ball on the ground, and we don't get it. There's special teams, a block punt 2 times that Gunners are down at the goal line for great field position plays, and they let the balls go in the end zone. And you couldn't let them get started. I know Vince is disappointed for Texas in the loss, but so happy for DJ that he played so well. But they got the surge. They got the momentum. You had to stop the run to start the game. You had to put pressure on DJ, even with a sore ankle. It said last week, got to get after him, man. You cannot let him get comfortable. And he got so comfortable. And then the crowd gets into it. And then the thing I'm so proud of for the Texas guys, they kept fighting. They kept hanging in there. So they're going to be okay. But they had the exact scenario to get beat on the road let him run the ball, let him quarterback get comfortable, have really good play action passes where he's protected, and then really get after the quarterback, because they were all over Arch with 6 sacks, and he got hit so many times when he was throwing it. And people don't understand, even if it's not a sack, and Vince has done this, if they're pushing the offensive lineman back in your feet and you can't step forward and you can't throw, you're going to break a hand. You can't get the ball where it's supposed to be. You can't get it on time. Your timing's off. And that's what makes it very, very difficult and makes it look worse on the quarterback than it was.
Yeah, very uncomfortable. And when you get on offense, one of the things you can't have is penalties. And they had, I think, 10 penalties for 70 yards or something like that. And when you starting off schedule, now you're putting pressure on our coordinator on start. But it's hard already to get a first down. But if you're starting in 1st and 17, 2nd and 20, those things are they call it offensive breakers. Like, you can't drive the ball. You're going to have to punt it away. Yeah. And once you give them back the ball, they are already playing hot. So now you got to figure out on the defense side of the ball, like, how can we stop these guys? We already have more plays than our offense. And when you play guys like that and go into a hostile environment, you, as an offense, you want to have possession of the ball longer than them, and you want to have the ball and keep their offense off the field. And that's what, Florida did to Texas.
I feel like I went back to the Max. I went back to the Max must-dos, and they didn't do any of them for the most part. I mean, that was, that's the biggest thing. We just talked about that, too. Yeah.
And Bob Vince made such a great point. Sark has always said, and this is a coaching rule of thumb, no pre-snap penalties. They had motion penalties. And then you have the post-whistle penalties, which you can't possibly have, but those are drive breakers. And then I looked up, and the running back at Florida carries the ball 27 times. The backs at Texas carried 11. So it's just time of possession becomes a factor because the defense gets beaten down. And you just stay out there all day in the heat and the humidity and the rain. It makes it tough.
And I want to get into those two things because I think there's an important thing there. You talked about Arch Banning and what he went through. I actually thought he took a pretty significant step on Saturday, having to deal with what he dealt with and still making some of the throws he made. I thought it was a nice step for him. 35 pressures on Arch Manning is 7 more than any game in Steve Sarkisian's history here at Texas, his 5-year tenure here at Texas. It's an unbelievable number, 35 pressures. So what do you do if you're Arch? If your offensive line isn't playing well and you're having struggles, how does it change your mentality? Does it give you happy feet? Do you have to throw it earlier? Are Emmett Mosley's streaking down the field. He's about to get hit as he throws. It's overthrown because he's about to get. I mean, there are a lot of things that happen like that. As a quarterback, what is Arch's mentality right now? Is it the game it seemed like it kind of started to slow down for him a little bit.
Right.
But now you're worried about the offensive line, how the offensive line's playing. So how do you deal with that as a quarterback?
Well, I mean, you just got to go back to the drawing board. You got to get to a point like you got to go into the offensive O-line's meeting room and listen to what's going on, what is being said. And I learned that later in my career, but in the same time, you got to understand that you're being judged a lot right now. Mm-hmm. And you got to do whatever it takes to get that offense going. And when that has it, you got to give respect to Florida's D-line. They played unbelievable and put a lot of pressure on them. But in the same time, you got to don't forget who you are, Arch. When it's breaking down and it's not there, you can't sit in the pocket. It's okay to throw a bomb off rhythm. I saw it last night with Lawrence down in Jacksonville. Yeah. He beat Kansas City with his legs because the pressure was so much in his feet. He couldn't get a good throw. He had to make some orthodox throws, which sometimes is okay. Yeah. And Arch needs to learn that because we brought you to Texas to be not just because of your strong arm and your name. One of the things that we did like about you is because you used your legs. So he just got athletic ability. So he has to use that when it's under pressure, when he's uncomfortable. Get out of there and get some yards, get 6-7 yards, get down. If it's not there, if you got a good throw downfield, make sure you're telling your receivers, when I'm coming out the pocket, I'm still alive to throw the ball to you. So get open. If not, I'm going to get some yards and get down. So he has to get back to that part of it, helping this offensive line until they get their rhythm back and get comfortable with some of the things that the defensive line is trying to do to him.
And he certainly did that a little bit against Florida. I think that was a nice. I think that's the nice step for him that we saw. Coach, let me ask you this: you when you have an offensive line that maybe isn't gelling as quickly, it's inexperienced. DJ Campbell, the only returning starter. Trevor Gooseby had some moments last year. What do you do in season after a game like that to get them to settle down? And how much can you actually change versus how much, what can you do as a coach in that situation?
Bob, I go back to Vince at Arkansas. Where our offensive line was struggling. They were all young. We put Vince in, and Vince started running. He ran the ball. Then protection got better, and everything got better. And I was really impressed with Archie's runs on Saturday. He can really run.
Yes, he can.
And he's getting smart. He's getting down. But I thought about the schedule. You got the hard game at Ohio State. Nobody knows freshman quarterback there, Arch early starter, lack of experience on the teams. So that's a tight game and ends up 14-7. You come back and you don't play great against San Jose State on offense. You don't play great against El Paso on offense, but everything comes together against Sam Houston, but those are bad teams. They're not teams that are talented like you, so you're still not sure who you are. Florida goes to LSU, and it's a tight game at halftime. And DJ struggles and throws the 5 interceptions. You got a 20-10 game with 5 interceptions. Be careful. It's a pretty good football team. Right. And then you go to Miami, and you're with 4 minutes left, you're in the game. And they may be the best team in the country. So Florida was more prepared because of their competition on the road than Texas. So now I heard Sark say on Monday, and I thought this was so key, quicks, screens, reverses. I got to help that offensive line. I can't just drop back because we want to if they can't protect. Right. Vince said it best. At Florida, they had play action. They had quicks. They had slants. They had hitches. They had hitch and go. So when you thought you had your identity against 3 lesser teams, now you know what you got to fix. And going into the Oklahoma game, this is a game that you will have to redefine your identity because there are some things that you hoped were fixed that aren't. And now they got to be fixed. And you can't change people. You don't have free agency. So what you do is you tweak your schemes just to help your quarterback. And that's what Florida did with DJ, I thought, on Saturday.
Right.
How do you run the football? Obviously, this game, I'll never forget. Every year we'd ask Mack about how do you win this Texas OU game. You gotta outrun them, and you gotta stop the run. And that's always been, being the more physical team in this game feels like it's always the most important thing. Can Texas do that? Is that something they can bounce back and do when they go into this game on Saturday?
Yeah, you can't never abandon a run. You just got to keep running it because in a minute you're going to get a big run. You got to stay believing into that. That's just like this new basketball NBA. The big man is not the big man no more. He's shooting threes now, but you still got to go into the paint. You got to start the offense from the paint and then work it out. So same thing with the offense, with Texas offense. We have to be physical up front first. So we have to run the ball because if we don't run the ball, we ain't going to be able to pass the ball. So they just got to stick with it until we get that big run, and then they get their rhythm, and then nobody else going to be talking about running the game because they found they niche and what they need to do, and all they got to do is just be physical.
They need C.J. Baxter back. And it's nothing against Quintravian Wisner. He was a 1,000-yard running back in the SEC last year, but I think C.J. and Quintravian together is a real dynamic duo on offense. Mack, I want to ask you about the defensive side of the ball because they got punched in the mouth early and didn't respond well. They did later in the game. How much of that do you think, you look at some of those defensive tackles that are new to the SEC, Malik Muhammad was out. There are a lot of pieces kind of rotating. My thought is they'll respond pretty well this week because there's a lot of pride on that defense, and I think they'll come physical. Do you think maybe they just weren't ready for what Florida was throwing at them early on?
Bob, I think ready's a weird term for football. Yeah. Did they have energy? Were they excited? Were they ready to play? Yes. Were they ready for that physical defensive front? No. Because even Ohio State had a young front.
Right.
And then the 3 teams they played, they dominated so much because they didn't have a player that could play on Texas's team. Florida's got players like Texas. I mean, that's what you get to get the best players in the country. And I think that just when they start running at you and they start hammering you and all of a sudden you get frustrated and then a guy will get out of his gap and then a guy doesn't tackle as well, then you get tired because you're out there too long. And all of a sudden you're not as confident. Confidence is a powerful, like a drug in this sport, in our lives, but in this sport. And when you think it's good, and when Florida got their crowd stirred up, excuse me, they got their confidence on all three phases we're going, man, they were pumped.
Yeah.
And it just feeds energy to the team. And just like the ball on the ground, the first play of the game, those are plays that if you win the game, you got to get that ball. You can't let it lay there and then them get on top of it, because that's a turnover in a short field in the red zone and may score. And Bob, one other point, the two running backs, Vince was never hurt. He was tough as nails and stayed healthy. Your running game gets better in the fourth quarter if you stay with it than the first. Everybody got tired. Vince never got tired. Ricky Williams never got tired. Cedric Benson never got tired. They ran over people in the fourth quarter. And that's how you win these close games that are tight. And the other thing is the two backs have pulled hamstrings. It's really, really hard to practice. It's hard to stay in shape when you're not sure when you're going to pull that hamstring again. So not only are the two best backs not playing much, they're not being able to practice. They're not in great condition, and they're not being used to getting hit and carrying the ball. So all that hurts. So I think what's going to happen, you have to create running game. So you add to your running game screens. You add to your running game the speed sweeps, the reverses. You add to your running game a hitch. You add to your running game a flare. Get the ball to your tight ends quick. Get the ball to your backs quick. And that way, defensive linemen that aren't getting to the quarterback get discouraged. And then they quit rushing as hard. It's just human nature. They said, we're not going to get there today. And when Vince started running and hitting short passes, everybody stopped. Because if they ran upfield and ran past Vince, he's going to go 15 yards or 60. He's going to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And he didn't hold the ball long. He got rid of it. And that's the tough thing, too. Arch is throwing to new receivers that were a lot of man coverage with Florida on Saturday. It's hard to separate. So those receivers got to help him. They got to separate. And you got to separate fast enough that the offensive linemen don't have to hold them so long. So there's a lot of little things that need to be tweaked, and they're so close. It can be done. It can be fixed. But you got to redefine your identity and your play sheet this week.
Yeah.
I kind of went to that this week. It's really funny to think about how on the outside, Sark talked about quieting that outside noise. So much of the outside noise has been Texas played terrible against Ohio State. Texas played terrible against Florida. They don't look like the team we thought they were, whatever. My kind of comeback for that is in both those games with a minute to go, they had the ball, the chance to go tie the game. So as bad as everybody said they're playing,
right,
they're still right there, which is kind of crazy. Especially Saturday, because it was bad for a while. But to Sark's point, this is where you find out about your culture. And I think that was a great way to put this. When you guys had those moments where you got hit in the face, you lost a game, 2004 OU, you lose 12-0. Now everybody's talking about, well, they're not there. They're not there. What is your response? How do you get your team and your culture exactly where it needs to be going into a game like this?
Well, just understanding, why did we lose the game? Coach Brown and the rest of the coaching staff did a great job of relaying that back to us and showed us. One of the things that we did in team meeting was they'll show us 3 or 4 bad plays and then show us 3 or 4 really good plays.
Yeah.
And once we saw that as a team, you're like, okay, let's go back to the drawing board as a quarterback staff, as a running back staff, whatever it may be, as a leader. You have to talk to your team like, man, we have to be more focused on that. Like third down. I think that was 3 and 4, 11 or something like that. That is horrible.
Right.
And when I was at practice the other day, I saw that. I was like, man, one of the things that we used to do when coaching them called third down, I bring guys up. Hey guys, let's focus. We got to at least be 50%, 40% here at practice for us to have a good game.
Yeah.
Coaches making this an emphasis on practice right now because they are really good on third down. They're really good on defense out here. We have to beat that battle.
Money down.
Yeah. So these type of things that when we do these emphasis at practice, it's going to happen in the game.
Yeah.
It is going to happen. Coach was probably 99 to 100% when we talked about situations at practice that happened in the game. So right now, when we go back to the drawing board, we're watching these things that we did bad and we did good. Focus more on the things that we did bad at. And the things that Texas did bad at is why they lost the game, because they didn't do good on third down. They had penalties. They had a couple of turnovers. And the main thing is, like Coach just said, you was still in the game. If you still in the game, that means you still have a shot. So if you clean up those things, the next time it happens, like a game like this weekend, Texas OU game, you will come out on the successful side because you focused in and dialed in on the things that those mistakes that you did have.
Texas is 115th in the country in third down percentage on offense. They have more 3rd and 9s or longer than they do 3rd and 4s or shorter.
So
And it's not a good recipe. Yeah, absolutely.
Sacks, penalties.
Penalties, they're 4th worst in the country in penalties.
Yeah,
I mean,
it means you're not third and measurable.
Right.
Yeah.
That gets you in trouble. I remember, Bob, a couple of times we've got beat by OU in the next week. You've got to manage the game before the OU game, because people are thinking about OU. They're not talking about that game. And Texas had the disadvantage of going to Florida while OU has Kent State at home, and they're through by 3:30, and they're relaxed and going to bed and had a big win. And poor Texas is getting home at 12:30 or 1, miserable and sore. And then you talk about shutting out and then you have to worry about the game after too. If you lose it or if you win it, you're full of yourself and everybody's bragging on you. If you lose it, everybody wants you shot. They want you dead. They don't want you just fired. And so first you say, what about the noise? Only listen to the noise with people you trust. Don't know who's the noise. If I don't know somebody, if I wouldn't ask them for advice, I'm darn sure not going to listen to what they think of me. Period. 100%. Secondly, I remember we got beat by OU once, and I was so mad, and we stunk, and I couldn't figure out why. And we came back, and you take 80 people on the trip. We're going to Colorado the next weekend. I cut it down to 63 players on the plane. I said, no hamburger eaters. We're not going to have anybody standing around, man. If you're going, you're going to play, and you're going to win, and we kill Colorado. And then I remember another time we played OU, and it was cold, and all of our guys are over there with their jackets, acting like we're little babies, and OU had no jackets. They're over there kicking our butt. So we're playing at Kansas the next week, and Chris Sims was our quarterback. And I remember I said, okay, no jackets, no pullovers, no toboggans, no gloves, no nothing, man. You wear that uniform and you handle the weather. It's snowing. It's 41 degrees. I remember after 2 series, we're down 10-0. And I remember yelling at Chip Robertson, our equipment manager, and saying, hey, if we're going to get our butt kicked, I'm going to stay warm. Bring me a jacket. And we just pulled out the jackets and ended up winning 45-17 or something. So what you do is when things aren't working, you change it. But Coach Landry said you learn from losing.
Yeah.
And you got to take it and turn it into a positive. You got to take negatives and turn them into positives. And fans, media, we all stay mad on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. Those guys have already moved on. You got a 24-hour period. You got to pick it up. Vince said it best. You got to go figure out what you did well and do it even better. You got to figure out what you didn't do well and fix it. We didn't even call them bad things. We didn't call them problems. We didn't call them mistakes. We said you got to fix it. Fix your problems. And that's what they're doing this week.
Well, let's put Florida in the rearview mirror then, and let's look forward to what we have going on this week with Texas OU. We'll do that later in the show. But before we do all that, we had a really good conversation before we started the show about the AP poll and some of the things that are happening with teams moving up and down. And that's a perfect transition into our Riize Up the Rankings segment presented by Riize Energy Strips. Energy you can count on without the sugary crash or jitters. You can get up to 25% off your first order of strips at riseup.com/stampede. That's RIIZEUP.com/stampede. Riize Energy Strips, smart, simple, and built for the long game. Okay, so let's talk a little AP poll here. Obviously, the movers and shakers of the week are the 2 teams that started in the top 5 and are no longer in the AP poll. but I want to get it from your perspective. Mack, let's start with you as a head coach. What are your thoughts on what happened this week in the AP poll, but a more in general? Now we're a month and a half into the season. Now the AP poll maybe makes a little more sense from this point on.
Bob, I've always said the preseason polls are not worth anything except chatter, because you can look at Ohio State was 3. I think they're 1. Penn State or Texas was 1. They're out. Penn State was 2, they're out. Ohio State was 3, they're 1. Clemson was 4, and they're out. So what we're seeing now is people have to earn the right to be in the polls. And that's what I always said. You earn the right in November. You're just part of the flash early. So I look at what happens next. Oregon, Indiana at Oregon is going to be a great game. That's going to be so much fun to watch this weekend. That's going to change somebody in those polls. Ohio State goes to Illinois. Illinois beats USC at home. Who knows? And I think Ohio State's really good. Florida goes to A&M. We just saw how good Florida can be. Can they be that good on the road with an undefeated A&M? You've got Alabama going to Missouri. Missouri can beat people at Missouri. You like that? I know that. You got KU going to Texas Tech. I'm impressed with Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech's good.
Yeah.
I mean, they are playing great. Another great game. You got Georgia at Auburn. All the pressure on Auburn. It's been hard for Georgia to win down there. So when I look at these things, Bob and Vince, what I do is say, who do they play? Who's next? Miami is open this week. And Miami's got a pretty good run here. They have a chance to go all the way to the end. So at this point, some of it is more about health, confidence, and schedule than it is just who you are.
Yeah.
And Ohio State just thumped Minnesota. They thumped them, man. And I thought that might be a good game. So Ohio State each week, they go to Washington and thump them. They go home and beat somebody else. Quarterback's playing really good. They're playing great on defense. They've got a lot of confidence. I think Ohio State's the real deal. And then you see a Penn State who has a good football team. They just lost to Oregon. We talked about going on across the country. They go across the country. UCLA's fired their head coach. They fired their offensive coordinator. They're not playing good at all. And then you don't show up. And Vince will tell you, one of the things about all these teams here at the end, it's going to be who shows up. Our 05 team showed up every game. They practiced that way during the week. So which one of these teams cannot have a letdown? Who is going to play at the highest level and keep improving? And those are the teams that play enough people. They beat people bad enough. They got great team morale. They got good locker rooms. They're healthy because they're playing too deep. Those are the ones. And they have a reasonable schedule here at the end. And it'll be down to 1 or 2 games that will make a determination on who's in the playoffs. Maybe 1 or 2 plays in those 1 or 2 games.
Absolutely. Usually is. Riize Up the Rankings, presented by Riize Energy Strips. Vince?
Well, I mean, Florida and Ohio State are the 2 teams is to beat. Well, Ohio State, obviously, because they just won a national championship. Yeah. And what I like about saying as a quarterback, he doesn't make mistakes. And that's a lot saying for a young guy playing on a high level that he is. But, yeah, and then back down in Miami, he's been in a lot of games. So if they can continue, like to do what Coach just said, understand not to drop a ball in one of these games coming up, I think those 2 teams is the teams who you have to beat. And I like both teams, and I really like saying right now as a quarterback.
It was fun to see some of the teams down kind of in the 20s move up maybe 5 spots just because of the way they're playing. Love to see it for Blake Gideon and what he's doing with Georgia Tech's defense and how they're still undefeated. The team I looked to this week was Illinois. What a great response to lose to Indiana on the road 63-10 and then come back and win 2 straight, beating USC and Purdue. I mean, that's
my underdog.
That's your underdog.
Yeah,
you love Illinois. You love Illinois. But to see a team respond that way after losing a road game by 53 and then win back-to-back games, and they've kind of shot back up into the poll where I think most people thought they would be early in the season. That's what I think a lot of people think Texas needs to do now. Can they respond after a road loss?
And Bob, that's coaching. Brett Bielema could have gone in the tank with all the noise. Indiana kills him. They're not any good. He picked them up. Got them confidence. And now they've won 2 in a row, and they're back on it. So you can't lay there and wallow. You can't listen to all the negatives. You got to pick it back up and go to work.
And that's what Texas is going to try to do this week against OU. We'll preview that later in the show. But before we do that, we've got a very special guest coming on the show next. It's 3-time national champion at Oklahoma, Super Bowl champion, head coach with the Dallas Cowboys. Barry Switzer joins the program. That's coming up next. This is The Stampede, a podcast on the Texas Longhorns.
Game days are a marathon. Tailgates in the morning, kickoff in the afternoon, and celebrations that can stretch late into the night. You need energy you can count on without the sugar crash or jitters.
These aren't your typical energy drinks. Riize energy strips give you clean, natural energy you can carry in your pocket. No cans, no spills, no hassle.
And no waiting around wondering when it's going to kick in.
Exactly. Each strip has 50 milligrams of caffeine from natural sources, plus vitamin B12, L-theanine, and electrolytes, all from natural ingredients. They dissolve under your tongue, so they work up to 5 times faster and are 10 times more efficient than pills or energy drinks. 0 sugar, 0 calories, and the convenience to keep them anywhere in your pocket, wallet, or gym bag, so you've always got clean, natural energy when you need it.
Yeah, I could have used these back in my playing days. It would have saved me from carrying around a can like it's part of my uniform. With these, pop a strip, fill it fast, and you ready to roll. That's a winning game plan.
And now you can try them yourself. Get 25% off your first order at riseup.com/stampede.
That's RIIZEUP.com/stampede. Riize energy strips. Smart, simple, and built for the long game. College football not feeling as juicy as it once did? Let me put you onto something that'll shake up your Saturday and every other day of the week. Because now that Wendy's has crispy chicken tendies and a powerhouse lineup of new sauces, it's time you transferred to the hottest team in the league.
That's right, Team Tendies. Wendy's Tendies. They're making their undeniable rookie season one for the books. Enjoy first-string flavor from some 5-star recruits. Rep your own new favorite team everywhere you go, but make sure to cheer with your mouth closed.
Take it to the end zone of savory sauces like honey barbecue, creamy ranch, and the new Wendy's signature sauce to experience a total taste bud blitz of flavor. It's time to join a team that won't upset you with an upset. Taste the phenom that's gracing the gridiron with its juicy, crispy, and tendery tendencies.
Don't fumble the bag. Commit to Team Tendies and call the most delicious plays in the playbook. All right, huddle up. Tendies on 3. Tendies on 3. 1, 2, 3. Tendies. Let's do this.
Wendy's Chicken Tendies, now at participating U.S. Wendy's. Welcome back to The Stampede, a podcast on the Texas Longhorns, sponsored by Riize Energy Strips. It is the best week of the college football season. It's Texas OU week, and there is no better guest that we could bring on our show than the 3-time national champion head coach, the Super Bowl winning head coach of the Oklahoma Sooners and the Dallas Cowboys. It is Mr. Barry Switzer. Coach, thank you for being here with us. Happy birthday week to you. Thank you for being here.
We're a little late on a happy birthday.
Yeah.
Number 88 on Sunday, but Mack Brown is here for me, and I'll do anything for Mack. So Mack said, let's do this. And I got here. I left my golf course. I have the Barry Switzer golf course this morning. I got to be out there at 8 o'clock for those guys teeing off. And they said, I'm supposed to ride around and take pictures. I said, no, I got to leave. I got to do a Zoom call, a video with Mack Brown. And they said, you're leaving us, Coach? And I said, hell yeah, I got to go do this. So,
well, Coach is 88 years young, and we really appreciate you being on and just the success you've had and the history you've had with it, and your games with Texas through the years and your success against Texas. And we just thought it would be so cool to get you on here and just talk a little bit about the game.
Okay. I go back. I'll take you back. I used to see Texas all the time. I played Texas when I was in Arkansas. We always played them after they played Oklahoma, so we always saw the film. So I always saw Texas playing against Oklahoma, and every year when I was playing at Arkansas. Then I was coaching at Arkansas, and I saw them every year. Then all of a sudden, Jim McKenzie gets the job. We were coaching at Arkansas. In 1966, I'm on the staff there, been on the staff about 6 or 7 years. And he gets the head job, and he says, "You're going with me, aren't you?" And I said, "Yep." And Doug Dickey had left and gone to Tennessee and wanted me to come with him, but I stayed. And Hayden Fry had gone to SMU and tried to get me to go with him, but I was smart enough not to do that. I thought about going to Tennessee, but I was dating a girl and ended up being my wife, and so I stayed because of that. And sure enough, Jim gets the job in '66, and we come to Oklahoma. Oklahoma had not beaten Texas in 8 years. Darrell had won 8 consecutive games against Oklahoma, years against Oklahoma. All the last time Bud was coaching here, and Gomer Jones had his offensive line. I mean, his top assistant got the job after him, and he lasted 2 years. And we come in there, and you know what we did? We beat Texas ass with the same players the next year. And it's all about from neck up. You play from the neck up, really do. You like it. The whole physicalness to be from there down, but it's attitude, culture, all those things go into it. And Jim was really a great coach. He played for Bear Bryant at Kentucky. We had Pat James, who coached for Bear Bryant for many, many years at Alabama and everywhere, but he was on the staff. And we really had a great staff and put together, and then Jim had got together, and so we beat them at the first year we were there. And then the next year we beat Nebraska too. Undefeated Nebraska comes to Norman, and we beat them. And then the next year we get beat by Texas, and we go 10-1. And we played Tennessee. We played Doug Dickey and the Orange Bowl and beat them. But other than if we had beaten Texas that year, we probably would have won another national championship in our second year at Oklahoma. So they had the players. They just weren't doing a good job with them.
Well, Coach, I remember when I got to Oklahoma, I said, "What do you have to do to be successful here?" And you said, "Beat Texas."
Well, that's a big part of it because we were recruiting in Texas at that time. You know, the reason I had the success in the 70s I had a great success in the 70s. I wore a T-shirt yesterday. I had the Selman brothers. It's a picture of the Selman brothers together. They were uniforms. And people ask me, well, who are they? They don't even know who the hell they are. And I said, they're Selman brothers. And they said, were they good players? I said, when they played at Oklahoma, we were 54-3-1. We were better than 3 we lost to. And they never lost. It's like Joe Washington does this. When everybody does horns up, Joe will do that too. Joe, you didn't play at Texas. Well, that's how many times I beat their ass. I had 4 in a row. But he was in Port Arthur, Texas. I got all the great players out of Texas because I was doing the right thing before anybody else was. I was recruiting all black players and the best players in the country. I didn't give a damn. I was playing a black quarterback in 1972. No one, Southwest Conference wasn't recruiting black players. SEC hadn't got a white player. And I had the black community and families recognize this, that we were doing the right thing. Hell, I was getting old players. They all came here because of our culture and what we were doing and all. And they felt at home here. And I remember in 1974, we won the national championship. In 1975, we won it again. But in 75, our recruiting class, after the 74 season, our recruiting class in Texas, the Dallas Times-Herald, when there used to be a Dallas Times-Herald, that did a blue chip list. They had a confidential poll of all Southwest Conference coaches. So you get 8 votes. To make this list, you had to get at least 5 votes. And so on that list, they had 13 players that year in Dallas Times-Herald. I mean, had 19 players on the list. They had number 1 guy and number 2 guy were on the list. We got all 8 votes. The only 2 that got 8 votes were Billy Sims and Kenny King. I got both of them. Of course, Billy wins the Heisman. And I got 13. I had 13 of the 19 players we signed out of Texas on the blue chip list. So we got every damn great player. So we had a great run in Texas. And the people, I remember when I went to the Cowboys, my Jerry's showing me around like a little puppy, taking me around, the neighborhood there, Highland Park, and they have cocktail parties at Mack. And I walked up to a bar. I mean, we get a drink. I'm by myself. I'm staying with John Blake and Frida. And he used to play for me, and he was coaching the Cowboys. And I walk up to the bar and I get a drink, and this gal walks up to me and she says, lady, and says, "Coach, how do you like Texas so far?" I said, ma'am, I love Texas. Well, how do you know? You only been here 2 weeks. I said, ma'am, have you ever been to Del Hart's, the Net Border? You ever been to Brownsville? You been to El Paso, Texarkana? He said, and she looked at me, kept looking at me, and I said, I've been to every high school. I know every counselor. I know every principal. I said, I even know where Rio Mile is. And they said, and you ever been dancing there? Her mouth open. She doesn't know what the hell to say. I said, ma'am, I said, I've been to every one of them. I've recruited some of the greatest players that they've ever played in football. And they've played with me, Oklahoma, and they were all from Texas. I love Texas. So that was my answer to her. She understood that, hey, I've been to Texas before, and I love Texas.
Well, Coach, I had the honor of working for you as offensive coordinator. Why did you hire me?
Donnie Duncan was the guy that who was my athletic director, who coached for me, offensive line coach, and he'd moved, gone on, taken job, and come back. I got him back at Oklahoma as our deep athletic director. I got him to interview, and I had to. That year we happened to have. They hired the first time in Oklahoma history they had a black woman go on the board. When they put her on the board of regents, I said, So I go see her. I knew that it only took 4 votes to get him here, and I knew I already had 3 to get Donnie here. I went to see her the night before Donnie came in, and I knocked on her door. She come to the door, and she says, hi, Coach, and says, ma'am, I came to see you. I want to introduce myself. And she said, come on in. I went in. I said, this is why I'm here. And I told her about Donnie Duncan. Donnie had majored in education. She'd been an educator too. And Donnie had a degree in education, got a master's and all. And I want you to meet him. And I want him to be my athletic director. He's important to me. And I told her why. And so next day, Donnie comes to town for his interview the next day, and I take him to meet this regent. And none of the other regents know what's going on. I'm doing this. Donnie gets to spend 1 hour. Now, they didn't talk about football. They talked about education and their philosophy and all that. Spent an hour together. We left there, and the next day the vote was 4 and the 3, and they have to always say regent. So it was a 7-vote vote for Donnie Duncan, but it was a 4-3 vote. She was my difference maker. And so I knew I was going to get Donnie because of that. But anyway, I came here because, and we got you because Donnie Duncan, he said, he had coached you with you where, Mack? Was it
at Iowa State?
At Iowa State.
I was his offensive coordinator at Iowa State. And I remember, Coach, in the interview, and I think we were at Campese's. We were sitting there, and we were on a grease board, and I was telling you all the things that needed to get fixed at Oklahoma. Yeah. And I had just been the head coach at Appalachian State. I'd been 6-5. My first year as a head coach. Coach was 115-4, I think, at that time. And he had a cigar. And I'm sitting there saying, I don't like the belly, and I don't like this, and I want to do that. And Coach looked at me and said, you're 6-5, and I'm 115-4. And you're sitting here telling me all the things we're doing wrong. And I thought, yeah, you're right. All right, let's start over. But we had a fun time and a great year.
We really did. And you know what? When we were at Texas that year, we played Texas. You were their offensive coordinator. We had a great defensive team, without a doubt, and pretty good offensive team with Danny Bradley because he had the speed and quickness at quarterback. But we ended up a 15-15 tie. And they fumbled the football. We recovered it. Casillas recovered it, and they didn't give it to us. And then 3 plays later in the end zone, Andre Johnson, I saw him. He was an 85 team, and he's a defensive back from Houston. He's starting for us as a freshman. Reaches over, taps the ball out of the receiver's hand, lands in Stansbury, keeps Stansbury's belly. He cradles the ball and slides out of bounds. It's an interception. The ball hadn't even touched the ground. He slides out of bounds. But they said no catch. Bullshit. We went, the crowd booed like hell. We booed like hell. Downpour rain. I got a Beat Texas hat on, and I'm wearing it. And I'm on TV after the ball game, and I see the TV. And I say, God almighty, I'm wearing a hat that says Beat Texas. I had no idea I'm wearing it because when the downpour started, all them damn managers brought us our rain gear, and I throw on the hat and I put on the damn rain gear and all. Wasn't paying it because the game's going on. You're not paying any attention to what you're putting on. But hell, I got that beat Texas hat on. Oh, that became an iconic picture here in Oklahoma.
Well,
And,
Coach, you coached Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson at Arkansas. What were they
right.
like as players?
Well, I tell you, I knew Jerry was different then because all the other 18-year-olds were being led around by the seniors and juniors out to clubs, chasing women, fraternity girls, and drinking beer. And Jerry was working. Jerry was working some whole life insurance policies at all these northern Oklahoma towns, Arkansas towns. And he was doing exotic charter life insurance, whole life insurance. His daddy had an insurance company, and he was getting referrals and making money. He was just selling one after another. And I'm thinking Friday night, all these other guys are out doing drinking and partying, and Jerry Jones is making money. He's a businessman at 18 years old. So he was wired a little bit differently than the rest of them. And he ended up marrying Miss Arkansas. Jerry was he was pretty good at selling himself, and always has been. And I had a great relationship with him. When he made his first fortune in the oil and gas business here in Oklahoma. I was a head coach in '73, so I spent a lot of time with Jerry when he was here, and I'd go out a lot of social evenings, and we'd go to dinner together, and so I had a great relationship with Jerry Jones. And I knew when he got the Cowboys, there right then, the people said, the close people around us said, Jerry's probably going to hire your ass. I wasn't coaching Oklahoma then, but he hired Jimmy. Jimmy was the guy that played. They both played together, they roomed together on the road. And he had a good relationship with Jimmy at that time. And obviously, I understood that. He said he had a short list. He only had 2 guys on there, Jimmy and me. Then he calls me. I heard I got Laceville. I had Laceville down there at the Cowboys in personnel, and I got John Blake down there who played for me, coaching defensive line for Jimmy. And they both called me, tell me, hey, things ain't what people think it is after winning 2 Super Bowls. It ain't Camelot here. There ain't much love here. And he says that we wouldn't be surprised if Jimmy gets his ass fired. Well, everybody's saying, yeah, I ain't got the guts to fire Jimmy's ass. Let Jerry, they said, Jerry, you ain't got the guts to. Well, let me tell you something. He got so upset with whatever and I wasn't there. And I don't know nothing about what the hell went on, but obviously it popped. And I've been told by Laceville what was the one that probably did it. But anyway, all of a sudden it comes out in the papers, USA Today, World, and all that they were down at the Breakers Hotel, man, down there where the hell that is in Florida, and he went over to the table, raised his glass, and he says to the staff and Jimmy Johnson, they're all sitting there eating together. He said, "I want to do a toast to the best coaching staff in the NFL," and instead of all the assistant coaches that were working for me, they'd reached out and grabbed a glass just like I would have, and grabbed it and all, and raised it up. But not a one did it because they all looked at Jimmy to see what Jimmy would do before they did anything, the pricks. And so what happens is that Jimmy just rolls his eyes. Lacewell's standing there with Jerry Jones. He says, Jerry takes that glass and hits the middle of that table. All glasses fall over. Hey, that glass shatters and that drink goes everywhere. And Jerry walks out of there, goes to the bar, and a bunch of press people in there too, and writers and all at the bar. And he says, if he doesn't think I won't fire his ass and hire Barry Switzer, he's full of shit, like that. And that went in the paper. And all my kids are calling me and said, Daddy, you know anything about this? I ain't seen this. And I looked and hell, it was there. And several people calling me and asking me. Well, 2 days later, I get a call. I had colonoscopy that morning. Everybody remembers when they have colonoscopies, but I had a colonoscopy that morning. I had that drug in me, and all I wanted to do is sleep. The phone rings. I was living I was single, and I was living in a townhouse, and a girlfriend answers the phone, who later is my wife. That is my wife now, and she says, "This Jerry Jones wants to talk to you." I said, "I can't talk to him now. Tell him I'll call him this afternoon." I call him back this afternoon, and he says, "You want to coach the Cowboys?" I said, "Hell, I didn't know the job was open." He said, "Fixing to be." I said, "Well, hell, call me when it's open then." And I'm not going to talk to you now. And He called me back the next day and says, "Come on to Dallas." That was my interview.
And Coach, how was it coaching the Cowboys with Jerry?
I tell you what, Jimmy was a holler and a screamer and all that, and I never coached that way. You know that. I coached for this positive atmosphere around me all the time, patting people on the ass, talking to them one-on-one, and 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 went in there and had a great. I enjoyed it all, except I always regret my relationship I had with Troy. Troy wanted Jimmy. He wanted me to be tough for him, and he said one day, he said, "We ain't working hard enough." He steps up like he's a damn head coach or something. But I said, "Troy, let me ask you something. How in the hell would a quarterback know how hard we're working?" I said, "You throw the ball about 80 times a day. You hand it off about 50 times, Emmitt Smith, and we go run them in sprints. Why don't you get your ass over there with the linebackers and defensive linemen and offensive line? You'll find out how hard we work." And everybody kind of giggled and laughed when I said that. And it's we it's just because he was raised under Jimmy and wanted to be that way. Otherwise, he wasn't going to be that way. Every coach does it differently, and I did it my way. And I tell you what, all the players love me, especially all the black players. And I had a great relationship with Charles Haley. And ain't no coach ever had a good relationship with a Charles Haley, especially a guy that takes the dump on a head coach's car out at San Francisco. But Charles was a great player. And he asked me to come back and introduce him for induction in the Ring of Honor for the Cowboys. So that tells you what kind of relationship I had with him.
Have you seen the documentary?
Yeah, I did. I looked at it, and let me tell you something. I can read it on my phone right now. I can read you what message Troy Aikman wrote me. Troy Aikman wrote me a message on Sunday night after I just seen the message. And Troy said in that, he says, "Coach, I just finished watching the documentary. Brought back a lot of emotions, and I don't want to go there." And it says, "All that's in the past. I just want you to know that I love you." And
that's cool.
Yeah, it was.
I haven't seen it. I want to see it. And of course, I love Troy and you both. So that's
You know what? Like, hey, when we had Troy and we had it Kansas,
Yeah.
and everybody laughing about it. He's the number one quarterback in the country. Football player picked the draft, and I know you laugh about it too, because no one had any idea what the cat could do. We did. We knew that he was special, and he broke his leg for us and had to go to the UCLA, and he ended up. I'm coaching in the Hula Bowl with Tony Casillas, and 80. Casillas was a great player. Played about 12 years in the league, and so anyway, I'm at the Hula Bowl, and we go back and forth from Aloha Stadium to the high school. Your teams alternate go, and I'm coming back. Our team, we were all going to the beach first, and we didn't want to practice it. Let's come on back. No one will play the game. So we come back, and they're still having 7-on-7. I walk over, stand with all these pro scouts. Every one of them come through Oklahoma. Knew every one of them. I'm standing there and watching this quarterback throw the football. And I said, "This is going to be the number one guy." And they said, "Yeah, he's going to be the number one pick." I said, "Hell, I got a sophomore at Oklahoma that's better than him." They all died laughing. They started laughing like hell. So I said, "Well, y'all laugh, but I tell you what, I got a quarterback better than this up here." And every one of those guys came through Oklahoma. 2 years later, they're coming through Oklahoma, and they said, "Coach, you were right." I said, "Damn right, I was right."
No question. Bob, can you hit Coach with a couple of questions, and we'll let him get back to his tournament?
Absolutely. My first question for you, Coach, you went 9.
All you did is sit there and listen.
That's all I wanted to do. Like the rest of us, we just want to hear you two talk. Does Texas OU week still rile you up the way it always has?
Oh, it's a big game for us because, we recruit here and we need to be successful here. It's a bigger game for our fans because we've got so many fans in Texas, or people that live in Texas or OU graduate. You don't ever hear of anybody graduating from the University of Texas coming to Oklahoma to make a living, right? And I never heard of that. Go north of the red. But a lot of them go south of the red to make a living. We got so many OU graduates in Texas and Houston, West Texas and all. And so that game is important to them. And they live there, and us beating Texas means a lot to them because they live down there. So it helped our recruiting because our base was there in Texas, and so that was it was very important. And I was 11 and should have been 11-5 against Texas. In '76, we make the touchdown. Horace Ivory at the last minute. They've kicked 2 field goals. It's a 6-0 ball game. And he makes a great run and scores. And we drop. We don't get to kick the extra point. Uwe von Schamann never missed one in his career. He was never had a missed field extra point. And I know it's going to be automatic. And hell, the ball's on the ground out there. You don't get to get bad snap, bad handle, and all that. And so it's a 6-6 tie. Then the fifth, our 15-15, the tie down there. Those 2 ties should have been victories, and it should have been 11-5, just like it was against Nebraska.
Did you, when you think about what Brent Venables has done and the shift that they've made this year and where they are now, what that defense looks like, what's impressed you most about Brent, and how much do you get to talk to him and have conversations with him?
I do not have any conversations with him. I've never been to a practice. I don't go around anymore. I really don't. And I don't care to, and I probably could, but I just don't do it. And I knew that they had to get better on offensive line and defensively, because they are better defensive. I'll give them that. They are a pretty good defensive football team, but they really haven't been tested yet. And without Mateer, I said it's going to be a toss-up with Texas, and the bookies already say that held Texas a 3-point favorite in the game. So we don't have a running back. We don't have any tall receivers. We got some fast receivers, but we're not outstanding at that area. And I don't know how good our offensive line is. And they haven't really played anybody yet. Michigan was supposed to be a test, but their quarterback, Michigan, played like hell. They had no quarterback that day. And I suppose they paid that guy $12 million. Well, it's unbelievable. I wouldn't coach today, Mac. Would you coach today in this crap?
No, sir, I'm good. I'd rather talk about it.
You were one of those guys who had good salaries. I never got. I was making 20. I'm making 20. I made my first salary was $24,000. I went 32-1-1 at 3 years. Should have been 3 national championships in a row. 2 national championships, 2 undefeated season in that 32-1-1. And I got a $6,000 bonus, and they raised me to $27,000 or $28,000 a year contract. I didn't get paid a damn thing. I never made over $100,000 when I was coaching in Oklahoma.
I think with revenue sharing, they're going back 10 years. Maybe they can go back 20 or 30 for coaches.
Well, yeah, I ought to do that. But I made it off TV shows. I did about 5 TV and radio shows that made me $1 million. But if I hadn't done that, this would have been a good job, other than getting good players and winning.
All right, Coach, before we let you get out of here, can you give us your best Mack Brown story and your best Texas OU story, or something that just really comes to mind when you think of those?
Should I get off?
No, Mac. The one you always say to me about. I forget about it when we played Kansas up there. We had to play with Waitman for the first time, and we at the half. You went in and hate your ass out and said, "Y'all ain't worth a shit." And then we were on the plane going back, and you said, "You're always apologetic, Mac. You want to apologize. You're the offensive coordinator calling plays." And you said, "I will apologize to you, Coach, for the loss today." And I said, "They don't have to apologize. Hell, I knew that was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen at the half." He said, "How'd you know that?" He said, "Well, hey, you told them they weren't worth the shit. They both played them good. Instead of lifting their ass up, you just beat them on down further." But
those are facts.
But that's Mac did a great job for us. Well, I didn't want to lose him. He went to Tulane, took a head job. Head job's always better than being an assistant job. And so, he went down there and did a good job, moved on, did a great job at Texas. I've always said this too. Freddie Akers did a great job at Texas too, and he never got credit for it. Fred had a great run there, and it just followed Darryl, and they had wanted other people, and it just didn't work out for them that way. They got Freddie Akers instead. And Fred did a good job when he was at Texas. I played 3 years with him in Arkansas, Freddie Akers. We were at Arkansas together.
Bob,
Good
there's two quick stories for Coach. We're out there in the spring and we're stretching, and I'm saying, why don't we do calisthenics, and why don't we? And he said, you boys in the South, you do all that stuff. Don't ever do anything that doesn't help you win a football game. So he'd take music out there and he'd loosen up. And he said, why don't we have music? Because these guys, it's fun. They want to have music. They want to laugh. They want to cut up. You want it to be too serious. And he was so good at relaxing the players. Second thing he always said is you sit there and you hit your head. And nobody does that in football. Why do you do that? Just let them get loose. And then he wanted them to walk to the line of scrimmage instead of sprint, sit on the sideline, because he said, let them rest. It all happens after the whistle blows. And I'll never forget, we played Stanford in the opener, and I was proud. I think we won 20-3 or something in Norman, and we'd rushed for over 200 yards, and we're walking off the field, and he puts his arm around me and says, I know you're proud. 200 yards rushing really sucks around here. We're used to about 400. So I understood early about where I was and what I was doing. But we appreciate you, Coach, being on. Thank you so much. I know you're so busy this week, and I can't wait to see you this weekend. Love you.
Yeah, you bet. Love you, Mac. Take care. Good to be over with you guys.
Thank you so much, Coach. We can't tell you how much we appreciate it. You guys have a fun luncheon coming up on Friday at Texan Live.
We didn't need you.
Yeah, no.
We didn't need
That's most episodes, Coach. That's most of the episodes we do. I just say hello and then let Vince and Mac tell stories. It's great. Yeah. That's the best part of it.
He just picks the underdog. That's what Bob does.
Well, Coach, thank you so much. We appreciate it, and enjoy Texas OU week. Thanks for being with us. This is The Stampede, a podcast on the Texas Longhorns. We're back as Coach Ted with our underdog picks of the week. That's coming up right after this.
Football season is in full swing, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action.
Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like rushing yards, receptions, touchdowns, and more. Get your picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash.
This week on Underdog, I'm looking at two games, Notre Dame, NC State, and Kansas, Texas Tech. In the Kansas-Texas Tech game, look to Texas Tech running back Cam Dickey to go higher than 77.5 yards rushing. And then in that Notre Dame game, quarterback CJ Carr is going to have a good one. He will go higher than 262.5 yards passing. Download the app today, sign up with promo code STAMPEDE to score $100 in bonus funds or bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code STAMPEDE. Underdog, make picks, win money. Must be 18 or older, 19 or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some games, 21 or older in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. From Longhorns to startups, Branded Bills has you covered. Whether you're repping Burnt Orange Pride or building a brand of your own, nothing tells your story like a custom hat. Branded Bills is a proud sponsor of Texas Athletics with licensed Longhorn headwear that holds up from the tailgate to the stadium and through the celebration.
But Branded Bills doesn't stop there. They specialize in custom headwear that helps teams, companies, and communities showcase who they are with premium fit, finish, and style.
So whether you're a lifelong Longhorn, a business founder, or just someone who just wants to stand out, check out Branded Bills.
Explore their officially licensed UT collection or design your own custom hats built just for you. Branded Bills, from Longhorns to startups, licensed pride, custom style. It is time for the final segment of The Stampede, a podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Thank you so much to Coach Barry Switzer for joining the show, just telling great stories, and just it's incredible to listen to him think back and hear some of the stories that he has. Incredible to hear Mac get to talk to your old coach, and just a really fun segment there. So we appreciate Barry joining us on Texas OU Week. Always find us anywhere on social media at The Stampede UT, and you can get this podcast anywhere you get your podcast, on YouTube, on Apple, on Spotify, anywhere you like to go. All right. It is time for the Mack Brown segment of the week. It's called Underdogs of the week presented by Underdog Fantasy.
Ouch.
I know.
I'm glad we're having fun.
We're having fun.
Coach, we are
at
laughing
at
with
my
you.
expense.
We are laughing with you, not
No,
at you. It's the
no, you're
difference.
not.
Last
not.
week,
When I get text Thursday night, he made 90 yards. You had 92.
there was
Yeah,
no
that's
laugh.
laughing.
Nobody's
That's
laughing. There
laughing
were no
with me.
laughing emojis.
Oh,
Maybe
man.
laughing as we said it, but no laughing emojis. Okay. So last week, Mack decided to go with LJ Martin, the BYU running back. He just needed to get more than 91.5 yards rushing. West Virginia's rush defense wasn't very good. LJ finished with 90. So Mack was 1.5 yards short, which drops him to 2-6 on the year
Wow.
in his underdogs of the week. That's okay though, because we're getting the theme here of what to do. Vince Young, follow him. Had Bear Bachmeier higher than 37.5 yards rushing. He went higher than that. Vince is 6-1 on the year. And I had Christian McCaffrey lower than 60.5 yards rushing. And going into that overtime, I'm like, oh no, they're going to give him the ball. He's going to get, he was just under it. So I moved to 6-2 on the year. But Coach, I think this is your week. This is your time to shine.
I've got a
You
good locker
this.
room.
You got a good locker room.
I've got good culture.
Yeah.
Sally's starting to gripe at me some at home for losing. I've got to put out the outside noise, which is kind of inside with you guys plus outside. But I gotta cut that out and focus. So this week, I've got Notre Dame quarterback C.J. Carr, grandson of my great friend Lloyd Carr, who was a tremendous coach at Michigan.
Yes.
And he is going to go higher than 262.5 pass yards against NC State. And I put the 262.5 in there because with my luck, that half a yard could make a huge difference.
Half a yard matters.
That
half a yard, half a point
matters. Little things
matters.
make the difference.
CJ
Like my
Carr
man
higher.
Martin.
CJ Carr higher than 262.5 yards passing against NC State. And Coach, can we make a deal here?
No.
Uh-oh.
If you don't win this week, if it just so happens that something happens, can Sally make your pick next week?
Oh.
Boy, I like that. It's not going to happen. I'm going to win. I'm going to win. So we don't need to talk about hypotheticals. We need to focus on who we are. We need to get driven. We need to improve the little things that need to be improved and finish strong.
Spoken like a true coach.
Mama Sally, that'd be great to see Mom up there picking your pick. That'd be
We'll
great.
put her on next week.
Vince Young is going to the Kansas game at against Texas Tech. Who are you taking?
Yes, I'm going with Jalen Daniels. I'm going to go
Lower. Look at you.
232.5. Because they got a guy named Rodriguez that's on that Texas Tech defense that's playing outside his mind. And on top of that, his wife is a fighter pilot.
Yes.
Don't want to make her mad.
Yeah, exactly. So don't piss him off and don't piss her off.
I never thought I'd.
You need
I
to
never
be
thought
low,
I'd-
Daniels.
Yeah, I never thought I'd see Vince Young promoting the Texas Tech defense.
I know, right?
Yeah, number one
None of us
defense in the
did.
country.
You always killed them so much.
Yeah.
That Texas Tech's defense was bad for a long time.
Yeah.
And that was something they never fixed. They were fine playing 55, 54 games. But Vince is going to go with Jalen Daniels. Really nice quarterback at Kansas, but with the way Tech's defense is playing, he's going lower than 232.5 yards passing. I'm going to stick in that game, and I'm going to go with Texas Tech running back Cam Dickey, a product of Austin's Crockett High School, who's making waves in Lubbock this year. He's going to go higher than 77.5 yards rushing. I like Cam Dickey. It's really cool to see an Austin kid doing special things. The Crockett High grad's going to go higher than 77.5 yards. So as always with Underdog, make picks, win money. That's the way it works. So go with Vince and maybe Oppo Mac. Is that the
Go
is
with
that
Mac.
the
No, I'm losing and having fun. So it's good stuff. My man
right.
CJ is all in this week, though. I'm
CJ's
so
all in.
excited about our game Saturday.
CJ for Coach Brown this week. He's going to do it for Coach. It is Texas OU week, and there is nothing like it. It is to me the best week of the college football season. Mac, you got to experience in 1984, and then again from 1998 to 2013 as a coach. Vince, you obviously got to play in it quite a few times, and then in 2005, really that was the game. That was the one that just kind of turned things 45-12. What do you love most about Texas OU week?
Well, I can honestly say the food.
Yeah, it's so good.
The atmosphere, one of the things that we try to do every year, because Coach said, if we win, you can stay. Find your way home. So once we did that, I went and got my turkey leg, my funnel cake. I enjoyed sitting there just eating and just watching the fans.
Yeah.
So I think that was the great part. Besides the camaraderie and the Red River Shootout and all that, that was beautiful. But my main thing, just smelling the food when you pull up.
I love it. I love it when you come in on those buses and they're all lined up watching you come in. There's nothing like that.
There's
Coach,
nothing like
you experienced 17 of these things. What was your favorite?
Well, if I had known that the best pregame speech would be you get to stay and eat turkey if you win, we probably wouldn't have ever lost one.
Right.
Vince just told me that. It's the first time I've heard that.
Yes.
To me, it's just it just means so much. It's so important to both states. People that have gone to this game, it's on a bucket list because it's so unique and different. And it's just pageantry. It's just so cool to walk out that tunnel and have I had the Oklahoma fans yelling for me, and I had them cussing me for 16 years. But it matters.
Yeah.
It matters. Like I said, I had a great friend of mine yesterday say, well, if we can beat Oklahoma and A&M, I'm good. And I thought, we're just started the season. We're not even halfway through, and you're already. But I don't want to lose to those two because you have to beat your rivals to be successful. And we were 7-9 against Oklahoma, so I didn't do as good as I should have. We were 10-4 against A&M, and then all of a sudden nobody mentions A&M. It's the one you're not doing as well against. So, but at Texas, you have to beat those two teams, and that's really important.
No doubt. It's
Bob, I'm sorry, it affects the game before, as I said, and it affects the game after. So it's a college football playoff game at midseason that affects the rest of your year, and really I was going to say your career, your life,
it is
all
tradition.
all those boxes that you need to check.
Great history, great tradition to be a part of that.
And it's interesting this year because Oklahoma's going to come in off a bye week and then a win over Kent State. John Mateer did not play last week. Obviously, we'll get into that in a second. But they're two different things coming into this. Oklahoma's played great this year. They're 5-0, and they have the confidence that they have. But it's been a lull. It's been a long 3 weeks since they actually played Auburn. That's a long time to go. Texas is coming off this loss to Florida, where they're going to be ready to go. I mean, they're going to have all guns going. I mean, they're all firing on all cylinders. So I think that part of it's going to be interesting. I want to know if y'all think Brent Venables is lying. I don't mean straight out, just like, but John Mateer had surgery 2 weeks ago, and again, this is going to change as you're listening to this podcast. Obviously, the news will continue to develop, but the reports this morning were that there's optimism he's going to play. Maybe he's going to play. Brent Venables says yesterday, hey. He's got to do some good on good work, right? I mean, that's something that's got to happen at some point if he's going to play, but they're not saying no. All the talk was Mateer's not going to play. There's no way he can come back. And now it's like, oh, maybe. I've said from day one they were lying about this and he was going to play and he's going to start. We'll see. How much of a difference can that make for a team to get your starting quarterback back, especially with, Michael Hawkins hasn't been great, wasn't great against Texas last year. How much of a game are they playing right now? That's what I want to know. I'll get that question to Coach, but for you, how much of a difference do you think it is for Texas? Man, if Mateer plays, it's a totally different game than what it's going to be if not.
Well, I mean, it's to the point like we don't care who plays. Yeah. We got to prepare to play.
Yeah.
That's one thing Coach Brown and the rest of the coaching staff said. We don't care who plays. I think it's a tactic, right? I think they're messing around because unless there's some of this new technology, I can honestly say there's some new technology would likely get you back out there quickly. But to me as a player, you really don't care. You just got to get yourself to play because this is going to be a hostile environment, period, to who plays. And the last couple of years, Texas has came out and was winning the game and then somebody gets hurt, like Rattler got in or different things happen and the quarterback comes in and then they come back and win the game. Yeah. So you just have to focus on Texas football, Texas offense, Texas defense, and Texas special teams. And because you don't know who's going to show up to this game. because it's always happened like that because of the momentum on the both ways and all the stuff that goes on, and to hype up the game. You just got to go play the game, and that's what you got to be focused on as a player. For the other stuff, that's Coach Brown and the rest of the coaching staff to deal with who's going to be at the quarterback position and things like that.
And that's what Sark said. I mean, Sark said yesterday, we have to focus on the scheme, not on the player and the quarterback and all those kind of things. Obviously, Mateer is going to make a big difference if he's playing. But, Coach, how much of this do you think is gamesmanship and lying and just trying to, kind of do the things that you can do to make this thing even more interesting?
Lying's a strong word for coaches.
Stretching the truth.
We used to call it situation ethics. If it fit the situation, it was ethical. If you're a coach during the week, so it is definitely ethical. The more gray he can leave it, the more question marks you have as the opposing team. And you say you played Hawkins last year. He struggled. You sacked him 6 times. So you're thinking if you play him, he's still not where Mateer's going to be. He's up for the Heisman. How different will the two schemes be? That's what you've got to look at as a staff. How different will the confidence be? And then regardless of who's out there, if it is Mateer and he's got the bad hands, you got to get after him. You don't go after a hand. You don't try to hurt a kid, but you get after him, man. And that's what you do. You don't let them get started like DJ got started Saturday. And Oklahoma's really struggled running the ball. So this will be 2 teams that, again, the team that figures out a way to have the short passing game and runs the ball the best is probably going to win the game. But you absolutely you watch the news every day. You wait. Now I like the fact you have to declare, but what does questionable mean? We had Leon Johnson was a great running back for us at North Carolina. We didn't have to declare. I wasn't lying, but there were some situation ethics involved. And I was standing on the field with Fred Goldsmith, the Duke coach, right before the game. And he said, all right, tell me about 12, because I knew Fred really well. And he said, is Leon going to play or not? And I said, I don't know. You're watching him. He's limping. He gained 290 yards in the game.
Wow.
Fred said after the game, well, I guess I got my answer. I did. So sometimes you just don't know. I mean, these guys are machines. And Vince said it, whether it's technology, the what surgeons are doing now, more than before, but also it's these guys are just, they compete so hard and it's so important to them that they do amazing things. And so I would never count anybody out. And what I always said, they always said, well, we want their best. I said, I don't. I want to beat them. I don't care who's out there. But if he's out, get him out. But then we got to beat the other guy. I don't want to get beat by the bad guy. And so many times the starter's out and the backup comes in and just plays great.
Yeah.
Plays lights out, and you're sitting there, you relax. So they've got to understand this game is a crazy game that goes back and forth. You never know what's going to happen. The momentum changes in this game. You've just got to get yourself ready to go, play your best, fix the things that the opportunities that you missed at Florida. Make sure you take advantage of those and come out with a win.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see if they can do that Saturday. I've got one final Texas OU question because I don't think it was really fair to Vince. Mac, back in the day, when you came out of the tunnel, there was no black tarp, and Oklahoma fans could just pour beer on you and cuss you out and do all those things. Vince didn't get to experience that because they put the black tarp up. Don't you think that's a little unfair to the Oklahoma fans who want to be able to pour beer on the Texas players?
I actually got the screens put up.
I know. That's why I'm asking you.
No, I think it's so good. It was so good for Vince. And I tried for years. Why, when it's Texas home game, why don't the Texas fans get the tunnel?
Exactly.
I never understood. I always fought, man. I was mad all week, and I always fought with the loss. And they always said, well, the configuration of the stadium. I said, it's going to be the same number of people.
Exactly.
Figure out where to put them. Come on, man. This is ridiculous.
Every year we got to rock out and hear that, man.
Hear it, and then go to your side.
And then go to your side.
Like you said, those 4-year-olds saying, Vince, you're number 1 with the finger up, the middle finger. Horns down and fingers up. That's what it was.
Those poor Sooner fans did get to throw beer on you. They didn't get to cuss you out the way they wanted to. It's
They
just
did.
not
They
fair. Mac did this to those poor Sooner fans.
I should have made the screen soundproof. They
Exactly.
still got to cuss. They didn't throw the beer because they're going to have to throw it way up there to get it back to us.
They still can do the soundproof. They still can do it.
Hey, listen, there is nothing like that walk down the tunnel. It's one of the coolest things you get to do in sports. In college football, I think it's probably the coolest, other than maybe walking into the Rose Bowl to see that atmosphere. But that walk down the tunnel's got to be the coolest thing. Obviously running out of Texas is cool, but that's a once-a-year thing. And
walking right by them because their locker's
Yeah,
right there.
yeah.
We all walking at the same time. And then, I'm good friends with Trent Williams and, Adrian Peterson. So I'm like, we are already going at it because we got the same trainer.
But you weren't then. You weren't speaking to those cats.
Yeah. No, we was cool in the off season, but when the game started,
I said off season.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Bob,
guys,
these guys were
go.
so competitive. I had to
competitive.
get with Bob, and we had to figure out who walked out first
right.
because they couldn't
'Cause
walk
it's gonna
out
be a
together.
fight.
They were going to fight. So
Oh, yeah, it's gonna fight.
we'd be holding Vince. Mad Dog would hold Vince. Oklahoma's walking out, and they're all cussing each other as they're walking out. And then at halftime, the team that was head had to go in first because we couldn't walk in the tunnel together. It was just, we had strength coaches and police officers go out on the field before the game so they won't fight.
Oh, something gonna jump off.
No.
And fans can't see it anymore. They could stand outside where y'all were at the top of the tunnel. Now they've cleared them out. So there's nothing there. Nobody can see it anymore.
Right.
But that was the coolest. That stuff, I love that stuff. I think it's the best part of college football
It's
is
the
that.
rivalry.
But they just sit there and y'all come out one side, they come out the other, and y'all just screaming at each other.
We
You
trying to
thought
get
it
each
was.
other
I was
into the
trying to
game.
keep somebody from hitting somebody and get kicked
Right.
out of the game. So
'Cause it's something about to happen. Coach knew what he was doing.
Coach knew what he was doing for sure. No, but this is such a fun week. I know Mac's going up. Are you going up this week?
Yes.
Okay, Vince will be there. I know Mac will be up on Friday for the luncheon, Thursday and Friday for the Bear Bryant. You guys have an absolute blast this weekend. Enjoy it. I know I will. I do every year. I always tell the story. I think I've probably missed 5 OU games since 1984. And since Mac was the offensive coordinator, and my mom and I every year have a corny dog and a beer. 11:30 for the 2:30 kick. It's usually the better one was the breakfast of the corny dog and the beer.
Definitely.
But we do it every year. It's an awesome tradition my mom and I have, and my dad comes down when he can, and it's a blast. And so Texas OU, there's nothing like it. Go get you a Fletcher's corny dog. Enjoy the state fair and enjoy the game, guys. Always fun doing this with you. Enjoy this week.
12:04 and OU still
sucks.
I will say,
Bob, I saw 16 in a row, but I never had a beer before the game.
That's right. Do you have one after at least?
corn
At some
dog,
point on the way
everything,
after.
About half of them.
All right, you guys lead us out in it then. It is 12:04 and
OU sucks. Let's get it.
that's
See you
awesome.
Saturday.
See y'all Saturday. This is The Stampede, a podcast on the Texas Longhorns, sponsored by Riize Energy Strips. We always appreciate you guys listening. Review, rate, comment, find us on your podcast, but we appreciate you being here, and we'll see you next week. Happy Texas OU week, everyone.